I woke to an ear-splitting crash, the kind of sound that jolts you out of sleep and shoots adrenaline straight to your fingertips. It echoed down the hallway like a bomb had gone off inside the house. My heart lurched, pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I scrambled out of bed, nearly tripping over a pair of shoes I'd kicked off the night before. My phone screen read 6:12 a.m. way too early for visitors, let alone acts of destruction. Fear tightened around my ribs as I threw open the bedroom door and sprinted barefoot down the hardwood hallway. A second smash resounded just as I reached the end of the corridor. Then came a voice, furious, shrill, unmistakably self-important. My brain scrambled to match it to a face. I didn't get it until I turned into the living room and saw the sparkling glass littering the tile floor. My front door had been shattered, specifically the rectangular glass pane that sat in its center. And there, standing on the other side of what used to be my front door, was her. Celeste Doherty. Blonde, 60-something, in a navy blue blazer with a golden HOA badge pinned to the lapel. The local neighborhood tyrant. Infamous for issuing violation letters about everything from barking dogs to improperly angled garden gnomes, Celeste, self-styled compliance chair of our HOA, had just committed actual vandalism. For what, exactly? I had no idea. Sunlight filtered through the broken glass, catching the jagged shards and scattering them across the living room floor like diamonds. "What the hell are you doing?" I barked, voice hoarse from sleep. Celeste didn't flinch. She stepped forward like she owned the place, holding a thick manila folder stuffed with papers that fluttered in the morning breeze. Her eyes sparkled with righteous fury. "You're in gross violation of Article 13, she announced as if she were reciting law from a bench. "I've left 3 notices this week alone. You failed to address the structural hazard and color mismatch on your porch. This is a safety issue." My jaw dropped. "Mismatch hazard?" I repeated, incredulous. "You smashed my door over a paint job?" She scoffed and stepped over the glass like the shattered remains of my door were nothing more than confetti. "The rules allow board members to conduct safety inspections. You refused entry. I was left with no choice." "You had every choice," I snapped, trying to suppress the rage bubbling in my gut. "This is private property and you just committed a felony." My wife, Serena, usually handled HOA nonsense with more grace than I could ever manage. She had a calm way of speaking that disarmed even the most belligerent neighbor. But Serena wasn't home this morning. She'd already left for her shift at the station. She also happened to be the chief of police. Something Celeste clearly didn't know. I took a step forward, only half aware of the glass crunching underfoot. "You need to leave now." She tightened her grip on the folder and jabbed a finger at the new porch columns Serena and I had installed just a few weeks ago. Sleek, crisp white pillars replacing the rotted beige ones we'd inherited with the house. "Those," she said, her lip curling like the word tasted sour, "don't match the community standard. The board gave you a deadline to repaint or remove them. You ignored it." "We were going to handle it," I growled. "We've just been busy." "But that doesn't give you the right to do this." Her lips twisted into something between a sneer and a smirk. "Necessary measures," she said. "You left me no alternative." I counted to 5. I wanted to call Serena immediately, but something told me Celeste was the kind of person who got off on conflict. Still, there was no way in hell I was letting this go. Then, as if the universe had a sense of humor, the sound of a lawnmower hummed to life down the street, suburban normalcy still in full swing while my house had been turned into a crime scene. I backed up slowly and grabbed my phone off the side table. Celeste stood in the ruined doorway, hands on her hips, like she expected me to cave. But she didn't dare step further in. I dialed Serena. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey babe," heading into a morning briefing. "Everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "Celeste from the HOA just smashed the front door. She's here now. Claims our porch columns violate some rule." "But she literally broke in." There was a pause, then a sharp inhale. "She what?" "She's still outside. Says it was necessary." "She's on private property," Serena said, her voice already firming into Chief Herrera mode. "That's vandalism." "I'm on my way. Don't let her leave. I'll send backup." I ended the call. Celeste must have sensed something had shifted because her brows furrowed. "You're not really calling the police, are you?" "I just did," I replied. "You vandalized my home. You're going to answer for it." For the first time, her mask cracked. Her smugness faltered. "You're making a mistake," she warned. eyes narrowing. This is a neighborhood matter. You'll only embarrass yourself. The next 5 minutes were tense and silent. I swept glass into a pile as Celeste stood there, taking pictures of the porch columns and muttering about community harmony. Then came the sirens. Faint at first, then growing louder. Celeste visibly stiffened. She turned to face the street just in time to see a patrol cruiser pull up to the curb, lights flashing. Right behind it came Serena's black SUV. The cruiser parked and 2 uniformed officers stepped out. Then Serena emerged from the SUV, her badge clipped to her belt and her eyes scanning the scene like a predator locked onto its target. Celeste went pale. Serena walked straight to me, brushing a gentle hand along my arm as she looked past me to the shattered glass. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "But the door's trashed." She turned to Celeste, expression unreadable. "You did this." Celeste faltered. "You hit was necessary. I'm within my rights as the compliance chair." "No, you're not," Serena said evenly. "You're on private property without permission and you destroyed someone's home. That's vandalism." One of the officers stepped forward, notepad in hand. "Ma'am," he said to Celeste, "did you break the door?" "It was for inspection," she insisted. "The HOA allows us to ensure safety." He refused access. "You still don't have the right to force entry," the officer replied, glancing at Serena for confirmation. "Not without a warrant. Not even under HOA rules." Celeste tried to argue again, but every word sounded more desperate than the last. He ignored 3 notices. "The columns are a hazard. I was protecting the community." "You weren't protecting anyone," Serena said. "You were harassing a resident and committing a crime." Within minutes, the officers had everything they needed. After conferring with Serena, one officer informed Celeste she'd be taken in for questioning. "You're under arrest for property damage and trespassing," he said. "You have the right to remain silent." "You can't do this," she shrieked, resisting just enough to draw attention. "I'm the HOA president. That title doesn't exempt you from the law," Serena said coldly. As Celeste was escorted to the cruiser, she turned to me, venom in her voice. "You'll regret this," she snarled. "I'll have the HOA come down on you so hard you won't know what hit you." I didn't respond. Serena placed a hand on my shoulder and whispered, "Let her dig her own hole." The cruiser pulled away, leaving the cul-de-sac eerily quiet. Serena turned to survey the damage. "We'll file insurance. I'll recuse myself from the case, obviously, but the department can handle it." I nodded. My hands trembled. Not from fear anymore, but from anger. Later that morning, 2 of our neighbors, June and Eric, stopped by. They stared in horror at the busted door. "She really did this?" June asked. "Over porch columns," I muttered. Eric looked like he was ready to throw a brick through someone's window. "She went after us last fall for planting tulips without approval. Claimed we disrupted the landscape flow." By noon, word had spread like wildfire. More neighbors came forward with stories. Fines for hanging wind chimes. Threats over sidewalk chalk. Complaints about wheelchair ramps and sandbox colors. I compiled them all. Documented everything. Photos. Letters. Witness statements. That weekend, the HOA held its monthly board meeting. They expected the usual dozen people. Over 60 showed up. The community center was packed, tension so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. The board looked like they were about to faint. Celeste's seat sat empty, her suspension already in place pending investigation. When I was called to speak, I laid it all out. The damage. The arrest. The threats. The dozens of stories from neighbors she had harassed. The room erupted in applause. By the end of the night, the board voted unanimously to remove Celeste permanently. Her lawyers sent one last letter threatening to sue. It was ignored. Weeks later, her criminal trial ended in a conviction. Community service. Probation. A fine. But most importantly, a permanent ban from any HOA leadership position. Our neighborhood healed. People laughed more, waved more. Porch decorations returned. Garden gnomes stood tall again. As for our columns, still white. Still standing. A symbol of what happens when good people decide enough is enough. And that broken door? We replaced it with a reinforced model, sleek, modern, and strong. Just like us.